At St James and St William, our mission is to build a positive, forward-thinking and consistent health and safety culture across our business. This will enable us to create and maintain safe working environments in which competent people can work in a safe and responsible manner. As part of this, we believe in sharing ideas, innovations and best practice to help deliver on this mission. These videos are part of a suite of videos to help us communicate these ideas and campaigns with a wider audience.
This next video is all about our health and safety culture. We want you to believe what we believe. We want you to know that logging a hazard is to save a life. This video is all about our Act of Charity campaign. Health and safety is not all about rules. It's not all about paperwork and red tape. It's not designed there to make your life harder. Health and safety, fundamentally at its core, is all about people. It's the people that work with you, their colleagues, your friends, your family. It's all about people. And our job is to make our construction sites as safe as they possibly can be, where there is no likelihood of a serious injury, that you are just as safe working on any one of our sites as you would be in a bank or in an office. So how do we go about doing that? We do that by constantly evolving, by constantly learning, by constantly changing the way that we work to improve. G.K. Adams once said, "Sometimes, in order to keep moving forward, not only must you take one step at a time, but you must be willing to look back occasionally and evaluate your past, no matter how painful it is." Looking back lets you know whether or not you're headed in the right direction. Let's look at two iconic projects back in history to try and illustrate this point. The first is the Hoover Dam. The Hoover Dam took 1,260 days to complete, and they poured an amazing 3.2 million cubic metres of concrete, which is about 2,500 cubic metres a day, all in the middle of the desert. And then you have the Golden Gate Bridge, which is 3 miles long, with strands that would reach to the moon and back. Crucially, this project was built by two companies who met in the middle. But in this instance, there was one main difference. On one half of the project on this bridge, one company believed in health and safety and they installed nets. On the other side, they didn't. So when we run the numbers on those two, both projects cost in the same ballpark. Hoover Dam was $35 million, Golden Gate Bridge was nearly $50 million. They both started around the same time and completed around the same time. Crucially, the difference is the number of fatalities. On the Hoover Dam, there was 114 fatalities during that project. On the Golden Gate Bridge, there was 11. But the difference here that proves the point is those 11 were all on the side where they didn't install the nets. The company that believed in health and safety and installed the nets as part of the works had 0 fatalities. In the past, we've always taken a lot of learning from our near misses and our incidents. We have always maintained that out of any incident, it's not about blame, it is about the learning, about understanding the root causes of what happened so that we can learn from it, put new measures in place and make sure that event never happens again. But we need to do more. We need to learn from more. We need to understand more data. We need to look much wider. What we can do is learn from our hazards. The hazards being the unsafe condition, the unsafe act, the trailing cable, the bit of dust, the rebar without a cap on it. These hazards we see day in, day out on site, and we know that all of these hazards that we see are all links in an accident chain. They are part of a sequence of events that, if left unchecked, can result in something much more serious. And we know that if we break that accident chain, if we remove just one of those hazards, one of those links, we will prevent that accident from ever happening in the first place. And the guidance and the motivation around, if you see a hazard, you must do something about it, has always been there. In every induction, in every toolbox talk, in every method statement, in every bit of training from health and safety point of view that we've done over the last 10 to 15 years has always been about, if you see something that's unsafe, stop and report it. And yet there are still barriers to this reporting process, to this action process. People see it as grassing a mate up. Oh, I don't want to, if I tell on him, he'll tell on me. Oh, it's only a trailing cable. It's only a bit of dust. Just don't worry about it. It'll be fine. And one of the other problems is that when people do log a hazard, quite often, then nothing happens because you have broken that chain. You have stopped that event from happening. So actually, you don't see the result. You don't hear the cries of somebody that's hurt themselves seriously on the back of that hazard manifesting itself into an incident. So what we're asking you now is to look at this differently. We want you to think differently about hazards. We want you to look at each hazard and the logging and the actioning of those hazards as an act of charity. So what do I mean by this? Well, let me ask you this. If you could stop somebody having a life-changing illness, would you do it? The answer is always yes. Obviously you would. We run marathons, we abseil down buildings, we run charity events, all in efforts to try and support and help people who are suffering from these life-changing illnesses. But what about if we asked you if you could stop somebody having a life-changing injury? Would you do it? The effects of a life-changing illness could be debilitating the body, impacted, family and social life. There could be money issues and serious mental health issues. When we look at the effects of a life-changing injury, they're exactly the same. Debilitating to the body, family life, your money issues and your mental health. The difference is that you can do something about a life-changing injury. So what we want you to do is think of every single time that you log that hazard as an act of charity. In the same way that you do with the marathons and the fundraisers, every single hazard is an injury prevented. So know that every single time that you log a hazard, every single time you pick up that trailing cable, every single time you put a cap on the rebar, every single time that you stop somebody acting in an unsafe manner, that is an act of charity. That is something that you have prevented from becoming far more serious. Studies have shown the greatest hit of happiness to yourself is doing something for somebody else. When you give something to somebody else, when you give your time to somebody else, even when you donate money, and when you're doing something for somebody else. So think of every single time you log that hazard that you're doing something for somebody else. That is an act of charity that you're doing for that person. You're preventing that life-changing injury from ever happening. And in that, you can take the satisfaction to knowing that you have saved a life. We know they're part of an accident chain, and we know that when you break that chain, you'll stop that accident from ever happening. So you should feel good about that. Feel really proud about that. And the reason why we ask you to log that on the app is just as we talked about at the start. This is how we evolve. We look at all of these trends, we look at all of this data, and our commitment to you on the back of this is that we will look at all of these hazards. We will review all of them, we will review all of the trends, we will go through all of that data and identify action plans based on these hazard trends. Look at what the data's telling us and help us think of new ways to work so we're even safer for the future. And that can only happen with your input. No hazards logged, no data to analyse, we can't learn, we can't progress. So we want you to feel good about logging a hazard. We want you to help us make those sites safer, and we want you to feel good about doing so. We want you to log a hazard and know that you've saved a life. Thank you.